What is going on, you guys? My name is Seapeekay, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Now, you've probably already seen this idea. I straight up have stolen this idea from Scott's Major. I thought it was a really good idea. I also thought it'd be interesting to see where we rank the SMPs that we were both in versus each other. But I was talking to my good friend Solidarity Gaming about content and video ideas because I've been pretty consistent for the last month. And he was like, hey, that thing Scott just did is a great idea. And I'm like, hey, you know what? You ain't wrong, buddy. So as you can see at the bottom here, I have thumbnails from my many series, my many SMPs. Surprisingly, unless I've missed one, which there is a massive, massive chance of, because I'm stupid, I have only been in 14 SMPs, and I've been a content creator for 12 years. That's only like one a year. That's pretty good. Although technically, One Life had multiple seasons, and CrazyCraft had some stuff after it. CuteCraft had 2 seasons. Harmony Hollow had a couple. So technically, I've been in more than 14. We are going to work our way through somewhat in order. We have S all the way down to F. I really don't think I'm going to go below C. I feel like that's going to be very mean if I put a thing below C, personally. But who knows? My favorite part is that I'm going to have to try and remember what half these are, because I can't lie to you. Some of these are from like 2018. I just don't even remember them. I also can't wait for this to be the video that people use to find out that I was in the Dream SMP. That's going to be pretty funny. So, starting with the OG Minecraft CrazyCraft. That's right. The thing that started it all. I've said this a million times, but CrazyCraft was actually the series that allowed me to take on content creation as a full-time job. This series is about to be 10 years old in August, which is ridiculous, by the way. That's right, if you remember CrazyCraft, you're also old now. Congratulations. Now, before we even really talk about it, CrazyCraft is going in S tier, just so you are aware. It was unbelievable. It's always gonna have a special place in my heart because it helped me become a content creator, and 10 years on, it's still my job somehow. Don't know how. Don't know how I keep convincing people that I'm worth watching. Really don't get it. But not only that, I feel like that's where my core group of friends all really started like making Minecraft content together on big SMPs. This was sort of the start of the SMP cycle. So it's always gonna have a special place in my heart. What I will say is that SMP, that mod pack, was a pain in the ass. The amount of times things would just break for seemingly no reason. You'd like craft an item and the server would shut down. So there was a lot of server restarting and work and back-end stuff that made it a pain. But my God, was it beautiful! Where else are you gonna find a series where you can just be running through a hill and Pac-Man appears and devours everything, and then you turn around, there's an ant on the floor, you click it, and it takes you to another dimension? It just sounds completely made up. CrazyCraft was unbelievable. We really should do a season 2. I really should get everyone back on Minecraft 1.7.10. What a treat. Next up, we are going to go with Harmony Hollow. Now, again, another series that holds a special place in my heart. I think preliminarily, I'm going to put it at B. It might get moved up. Now, from what I remember, I was in a couple of seasons of Harmony Hollow. I think I was in 3 and 4. I don't think I was in 2. Okay, I double checked and I've just absolutely lied to you. I was in season 2, season 3, season 4. I was not in season 1. Now, the reason I'm putting Harmony Hollow at B is, for me, I think that the SMP was great fun and the mod pack was good. But I think what made it so good was just all the bits I was doing with like Jack Sucks at Life. Like, I think it might have been season 4 where we had like vampires and werewolves and like hunters and stuff. And that was genuinely such a fun time. Pretty sure at one point I married Jack. There was a lot going on. There was a lot going on. But I could totally see why people loved Harmony Hollow. I think there was so many people who were on it who were like really great builders and stuff. And the mod pack had some great stuff for building. As you know, I am building deficient. I can't do it. So that aspect doesn't really appeal to me on an SMP. So I think I'm going to leave it at a firm B. But I loved it. The people on it were great. And obviously, I just got to spend a lot of time with Jack. And I love Jack. Please return to Minecraft, Jack. I miss you. Next up, we are going to have TrollCraft. Now, TrollCraft is a super interesting one. And I think it will also sit at a B for me. So TrollCraft actually has a super interesting story. And it happened so long ago, so you're going to have to forgive me if I get some of it wrong. But basically, between series, I was like going through the internet trying to find like a new mod pack to make some videos on. and I stumbled upon this mod pack called Trollcraft. So I started playing it. I actually made one single player video on it. And then I was talking to Lizzie about the mod pack, and Lizzie was like, oh, that could be fun. Why don't we try and do it as an SMP? So we start it up as an SMP literally days later, and we pick it up and we're like, okay, cool, let's do an SMP. So we grab the gang. It's like, you know, me, Joey Graceffa, Scott, Lizzie, Joel, Ollie, Lauren Z-Side, and Vixella. And then this is where it gets really interesting. So we're doing our whole SMP, and someone left a comment about how someone else was doing Trollcraft at the same time. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so essentially what had happened, I think, is that this mod pack was made for Captain Sparkle, Sunday, and Craner, I think. And I want to say it was made by Zine. I also could be completely making that up. I know that Zine was like the person who ran that server for them, so I'm not sure. But anyway, someone basically told me like months later, we were deep into Trollcraft, that apparently it was like meant to be a private mod pack made for them. And I don't even remember to this day how I got it. I think I was browsing, like, back in the day, there used to be so many clients that would like give the way you could get mod packs. So like each mod pack would run on their own like random client and you could install it all through there. And I swear like one day it was just there and I just had access to it. So we got it and then we used it. So there was never anything bad happened about this, but it was more just like, I don't know how I've done this. So the series, I think, were almost running pretty much alongside each other, which I think just caused confusion in the community because we were like, wait, hold on, how are they're not on Trollcraft, are they? And it's like, oh, different Trollcraft, thank you. But that same thing was happening with CrazyCraft. Like CrazyCraft was a public mod pack. But at the same time we were doing it, I want to say, yeah, so July of 2015, Pizza Hut, my now good friend Pizza Hut, was also running a CrazyCraft SMP. And I think that was like the same thing. People were just like, wait, are they on the same server? It's like, no, they're just running at the same time. It's really weird to look at who was making SMP content at the same time as me, who I did not know then, but now I do know. It's kind of a mad one. But yeah, Trollcraft was fun. I liked it because it was pretty grindy. And we had a lot of fun with it, like with Bird Universe and all those wild storylines that we were doing. Toward the end of Trollcraft 2, it was the first time I tried like doing some sort of roleplay type stuff. I don't know if you guys remember Trollcraft, but there was this whole character called X who would show up and just cause a nuisance. And that was really fun. I actually got to try and like write some lore stuff, and it was the first time I'd really tried it. So Trollcraft gets a strong B. Strong B. Could have been a low A. Next up, we have the Pirates SMP. Now, I am going to tentatively put this at a C, but I have my reasons why. So Pirates was an incredible SMP created by POW Creations, which is run by, I believe, Apokuna and Orange Juice. There's probably more people too. I'm just a forgetful Freddy. And Pirates SMP was a super lore-heavy SMP where you were all in pirate factions and you would go and do quests and you'd sail out to sea. There was custom boats. It was a really, really, really cool SMP. Now, when they were inviting people to Pirates, I sadly was not on the list, but they did give me a fun job where I would log in on the first day and I was called the recruitment officer. And I just had to do complete freestyle, off the top of my head, interactions with every single player on the server, and then I would give them the faction that they were assigned to. Obviously, I had great fun. I then said to Owen, you know, if a spot ever comes up, I'd love to join. Halfway through the SMP, they invited some new people, and I was in that group. So the factions were the Kites, the Herons, the Nightingales, and the Kestrels. My God, struggling. And the only thing was that by the time I had got sorted into a faction, because I joined halfway through, the reason I got to go in the faction I got to go in is because it was kind of a quieter faction. Some players weren't really coming on anymore. So as much as I did love my experience on Pirates SMP, and I was very, very sad when it ended, I think joining halfway through an SMP is really hard because everyone already has their, you know, their friendships and their lore and all this stuff. So I struggled with that a little bit, but I would absolutely do it again. I just like to be there from the start. Pirates SMP is wonderful. And it gets a C. Next up, we're going to go X-Life, which is going to come in at a solid A, maybe even a low S. X-Life was one of my favorite series that we ever did. I thought it was a very, very cool concept. And the amount of like wacky mods and stuff it had meant that there was so many different ways that you could play it. And again, for my building deficient ass, it meant that I could build a sort of normal house and then just go and have fun with the mods. And that's what I really love doing in SMPs. And like the way that you sort of started on 1 heart, and then when you died, you had 2, and when you died, you had 3. It meant that like you could play it in so many different ways. I don't remember which season of X-Life it was, because I think there was a couple. I'd like tried to stay on 1 heart for as long as physically possible. And it basically got to the point where I probably would never have lost a heart. So we started doing some silly stuff. This one was cool too because Lizzie had been dabbling with modding and making her own mods. So X-Life actually had, I think, 3 mods that Lizzie made herself, which was super cool to have in. That was where the Disney Wish mod came from, the flower breeding mod, and more crafting tables. So super cool to get that in there. X-Life was so fun. Some of my favorite videos I ever made were during X-Life, and it takes its place as a high A. Okay, so next up, we're going to roll with summer camp. Okay, now hear me out. I didn't remember this. I had this weird feeling. Bizarrely, I was talking about summer camp recently, but it's because I think summer camp was ran by Nettie, and I was talking to my wife about Nettie for something, and I was like, oh yeah, I was on an SMP with Nettie. So I flicked back through to watch it, and I think essentially what happened, if I remember rightly, is everyone had already started summer camp, and I joined late, because my whole first episode was me doing a bit about how I'm going to miss the bus and I'm late. But everyone was sort of split into teams of 2 players, and I think when I joined, I was partnered up with Ollie. But summer camp was cool. I do remember the task system. We would log in, we'd have a task to do. I love menial tasks. Like, I love servers where I can just get a job and do normal stuff because I'm weird. I don't know if you guys saw Purgatory 2, which was the QSMP offshoot that they did. I was in that, and it was all about grinding items. And my team, on the last day of the event, farmed 2 million bamboo for almost absolutely no reason. God, I love a menial task. Also, to be fair, I'm not sure if Purgatory 2 counted as an SMP. I think it kind of was, but if Purgatory was in here, it would be S tier. It would be way up in the S. But yeah, summer camp, I don't really have many memories of it. I think I joined late again, which made it hard. I'm putting it at D. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think people genuinely love summer camp. But for me, I joined late, and I just don't have as many memories of it as I do for my other SMPs. Right, let's throw CuteCraft in. Now, CuteCraft is a really interesting one. I'm going to put it at C. Now, CuteCraft, a lot of people don't know this, but CuteCraft was the first mod pack that I started compiling myself. So I had an idea, and then I realized that I'm useless at this stuff. So I reached out and spoke to Scott, and then me and Scott spoke to Joey. And basically the idea I had, I was like putting mods in and stuff. I couldn't get stuff to work. The mods I chose were generally quite terrible. And thankfully, Scott Major and Joey Graceffa were there to help. And they basically helped compile everything, and we pushed CuteCraft to the world. And it was super fun. It was just very bizarre for me because it's not really the type of mod pack I normally would have played, I feel like. But I helped to make it, so it's an odd one. But I think for me, it was more a different style of playing than I normally did. As I've said, I love like menial tasks or big mod packs and stuff like that. CuteCraft was so many more fun, little, sweet, adorable, cutesy mods, and there was still a lot of stuff to do within them. So CuteCraft was good. We did a second season, so it must have been all right. My goodness, I just checked. We did 37 episodes of the first one. By the way, if you knew me when I was making these videos, you would know I would do the most videos on the SMP out of everybody every single time. People would be like, I'm going to do my last episode. And I'm like, I got 15 more in me. Hold. But yeah, super fun. Honestly, it probably could be a B, but I'm going to leave it in C to have the spread. Next up, we got the Deep End. I think I'm going to throw this in at C as well. The Deep End was really cool for me because it was the SMP group was kind of very similar on each thing. Whereas the Deep End had a few new people in that I hadn't really played with or met yet. And the Deep End basically was an SMP put together because I think it was like the Update Aquatic had come out. I think that's what it was called. So it was really fun to like go and play around, and everything was like based out in the ocean, and we all built little islands and stuff. So it was super cool. And there was a lot of people I hadn't really interacted with before then. So like Captain Sparkles was on there. Afmal was on there. So super cool. But it was a vanilla mod pack. It was a vanilla SMP. So with that, for me, I had my own limitations where like I get bored quickly if there's not stuff to do. And that's why I love big, juicy mod packs. But nonetheless, very fun. And again, another different style of SMP that I hadn't really done before. So it takes a nice little C. Next up, we're going to do CrazyCraft. I'm going to tentatively put it at D. And the reason for that is, if I remember rightly, because I honestly don't even really remember CrazyCraft, I can't lie. If I remember rightly, we were just trying to play another thing that was kind of like CrazyCraft. I mean, it was way, way later than CrazyCraft. I think it was like 5 years later or 4 years later. So it wasn't like trying to ride off the hype of CrazyCraft. I think CrazyCraft got released because the guy who made the mod pack released CrazyCraft. He also had ScrambleCraft, and technically I was on ScrambleCraft as well. Probably should have put that in here. But again, it's just like one of those things where like I don't have really many memories of CrazyCraft outside of I know I was in it but I have no defining moments from that SMP. So I think for me, it has to go at a D. I hate seeing CrazyCraft in S and CrazyCraft in D. Horrible. But nothing will ever touch CrazyCraft. It's the best SMP in the world. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, if I like meet someone, like a viewer or someone who wants to come and say hello to me, they're like, I remember you from CrazyCraft, mate. And I'm like, that's wild. Because that was 10 years ago. How am I still riding this wave? Oh, I guess I thought I downloaded the... thumbnail for it, but I did not. I have to put Afterlife in here. Okay, now, I hope people don't disagree with this. Maybe controversial. One Life for me is going up in S. All right? That's an S tier SMP, in my opinion. The whole concept was really cool. Like if you had one life and that's it, and if you die, you're done. Finito, deleted from the server, gone. And if you made it to the end of the SMP, we would do the one life purge at the end of each season where everyone who was alive could get all their gear and get all their stuff, and everyone just tries to scrap and see who wins. That for me is super cool. One Life had loads of great mods, very, very similar to X Life, like so much stuff to do, literally never a dull moment. I'm pretty sure I never won the purges. Back when I was doing all these SMPs, I was actually like so bad at Minecraft. I still don't know much about the game now. I'm not great at like crafting. I'm not good at games like Bingo, but since MCC, thanks Scott, I've grinded to get better at the game. And now like I'm decent at PvP. I would argue I'm very good at movement. So it would be fun to do another One Life where we literally do the same thing and then we have a big purge at the end. Because now I'd back myself. Now I would back myself. But yeah, One Life SMP, very special. Absolutely loved it. There's plenty of seasons of it. It's up there with the GOATs. So next up we got Funcraft. I'm going to go ahead and slap Funcraft up in A tier. I loved Funcraft. Funcraft was like made and compiled by Lizzie. There was so much custom stuff in Funcraft. So much of it was just absolutely ridiculous. Then the funniest thing is, yeah, this SMP was so much fun. There was so much custom stuff. The amount of random mobs that there were. I believe Slenderman was in it at one point. Probably the whole point. But Slenderman was in it. I have this weird distinct memory of the "and his name is John Cena" sound playing a lot. I don't know why or where that happened. And maybe I'm just making it up because I'm old and I'm forgetful. But Funcraft was great. Slapped it straight up in the A tier. And also going in A tier is Kingdom Craft. Kingdom Craft could be S tier. I can't lie. Kingdom Craft could be S tier. If you don't know Kingdom Craft, it was a series where we all got to claim a faction or an area. So I became the king of the volcano faction, basically. And there was a huge volcano area. I say faction, I mean kingdom, obviously. That's why it's called Kingdom Craft, not Faction Craft. And we could all do things to like get extra claim blocks and we could spread it out. And the whole point of the series was like trying to raid each other's bases and trying to take stuff from each other. And that was super duper fun. Kingdom Craft will always have a special place in my heart. One, because it let me be a king, and that's nice sometimes. But two, I think that unlike other series where we're just doing big SMPs, the sort of rule is generally don't grief too much. This one was like, hey, if you can find a way to grief, grief. So I'd spend like hours trying to find ways into people's bases and working out not only where their base is, but obviously you have a whole huge area and they live somewhere in that area. A lot of people lived underground. Some people lived in the sky. Super fun. Big fan. We need more Kingdom Craft, honestly. We really do. And now these last three are very interesting. So after essentially a couple of years of not really being in the SMP circuit anymore, I basically moved all my focus to Twitch. I wasn't really uploading to YouTube anymore. And for that reason, I wasn't really considered for the SMPs. Makes complete sense. But I did get an invite to an SMP called Afterlife. And I promised that I would try really, really hard to ensure that I am uploading videos, high quality ones too. Like I did an intro cinematic, I did all this stuff. I was always trying to keep these ones really high quality. And it was super fun. The concept was essentially that when you logged in, you were given a random ability. I think it was based on the Origins mod, if I remember rightly. So like my first thing I got was I was a giant. So it actually made me huge and I could pick players up and stuff like that. And the fun twist is that every time you died, you had 10 lives, and every time you died, you would come back with a new ability, like a new power. So it meant that sometimes you'd have built this crazy house, and then you'll get something that can't be in the rain anymore. And so if you go outside and it's raining, you get damaged. So it meant whatever you did had to be suitable for so many different things. So I was a giant. I built a massive castle, and then the next thing I had was absolutely nothing remotely large. I was a normal size. So my huge castle looked ridiculous. But then with Afterlife, the thing was I was doing all these high effort videos. I was really trying to make them really cool. And I only got to 7 episodes, and technically episode 7 was the finale. Now, the thing with this was, I think it was around this time, 2022, I spent a lot of time out of the country traveling for events and stuff, and I did not pre-record enough at all. And then while I was away, I think people on the Discord had started saying that they were probably going to start wrapping the episodes up and wrapping the series up. So then by the time I got back, I think most people had posted their finales, and I was like, oh no. And then I just didn't make a finale. I just sort of didn't upload it anymore, which isn't good. I should have made a finale no matter what. And looking back on it, if I could change how I did that, I would do that. But this was 2022. I just signed to an esports team as a streamer, and I was focusing so hard on stream. And genuinely, I threw the chance away for Afterlife, honestly. And I do regret it a lot, because I should have done more with it, because the concept was sick. The people on it were great. I did my first real build, which was nice. So I loved Afterlife. And if I could do it again, I would do it again. And also at the same time as Afterlife, I got added to the Dream SMP, which was where I then put a lot of my focus. So let me explain. Obviously, I was a few episodes into Afterlife. By chance, I then get added to the Dream SMP. And at that point, people who joined the Dream SMP just got such a huge viewership boost on Twitch that I was like, I want to go all in on the Dream SMP, which led to me neglecting Afterlife a little, which again is part of the reason that I regret things. Dream SMP, I'm going to put it, for myself, it's between C and D. Now hear me out, here's why. Don't kill me, Dream SMP fans, all right? So obviously the Dream SMP, outside of the people and whatever has happened from the people from the Dream SMP, the Dream SMP was one of the most impactful SMPs in the Minecraft's history, basically, right? People were setting viewership records. Tommy in it had 600,000 people watching in. The stuff was nuts. Now, the Dream SMP for me, I had wanted to be on it for ages. I had spoken about being on it, wanting to be on it, etc., etc. One day, I just randomly, literally got an invite from Dream, and he said, hey, join the SMP if you want. And I was like, whoa, crazy. Now, the thing was, as I joined, it was basically done. It was basically ended. At the point of me joining, I was the last person to officially join with Amesy. Me and Amesy were the last 2 people. We got added at the same time. And the only people really playing on the SMP at that point was like Honk, and I think Captain Puffy would come on occasionally. But most people had moved away from streaming it and playing it at this point. I did interact with Bad Boy Halo a few times, but essentially I was then like, well, I still want to try and make the most of the opportunity. So I started doing some solo lore, and I was writing cool lore stories, and I was doing full cinematics. But then they sort of announced that the Dream SMP was going to end. So I didn't just want to be a streamer who jumped on the Dream SMP and like ran around just because I knew that it was going to be good for viewership. I always tried to do some sort of lore or do something fun or hang out with someone on the server. But it was just really, really quiet by the time I joined. So I definitely went hard on streams on it for like 3 months maybe or so. But then we were talking about ending it. And then basically everyone started having their own little like ending storylines. And Bad Boy Halo actually let me be in the finale that he had been doing for years. His whole storyline was like years along. So I was leaning into that. So I got to the finale, and it was super fun to be a part of it. It's just sad that it was really, really towards the end. So realistically, Dream SMP was so impactful, but because I was added so late, I didn't really get to do as much as I would have liked to with the opportunity. And so that's why for me, it sits at a C, I think. So hopefully that's a decent enough explanation. And then again, I was out of SMPs for a really long time. I did a few on Twitch, but I didn't do any on YouTube. And then New Life came around. Now, New Life for me also is going to go in, I think, A, because New Life and Afterlife were very similar. New Life was my return to doing YouTube uploads and YouTube series. And this time around, I did finish it off. I feel like this one, for everyone involved, I think this was meant to be a sort of smaller, shorter SMP. Like, I uploaded my first episode on May 27th, 2023, and then my finale was in December. But with these videos with New Life, I was really trying to, again, up my quality, show that I'm back to try and do good SMP videos. So they took a lot longer to film. They took a lot longer to have edited, all this good stuff. I essentially ended up putting out 1 or 2 episodes a month, and there was a proper finale for the New Life SMP. So I am happy that we did do an actual finale. Again, given the chance, I'd probably upload more on it and work harder on it. But you can't live your life in hindsight, guys. It doesn't achieve anything. So I think that this is my tier list. And again, as I said, yeah, I'm going to put Purgatory in as an S tier. I mean, in theory, it was an SMP, I feel like. QSMP Purgatory 2. That sounds to me like an SMP. It's got the word SMP in there. This was an unbelievable opportunity. It was using the QSMP's translation mod, live translation. So I got put into a random team, and I ended up being with Gabe, Goulart, Want, Aldo Heo, and eventually Mike from Paca Mike. And so it was me as a lowly Englishman with my Portuguese and Spanish speaking brothers. But because of the real-time translation, it was super easy. The concept was great. Like, you could get on for a certain amount of hours a day. You had to grind items. If you had a percentage of the items, you had a chance of staying in for the next day. Each day, teams were eliminated. You'd do a big challenge. Super fun. So great. It was the reason I started learning Portuguese almost a year ago now. I still keep in touch with the guys from the QSMP as well. So very cool. Perfect sort of event for me. It was definitely an event, not necessarily an SMP, but I'm gonna let it slide. I'm gonna put it in there. Unbelievable event, great opportunity, and probably the most fun event / SMP I've ever done. So big up Purgatory 2. Put me in for Purgatory 3. So that's going to be it. Now you can see my definitive tier list. Let me know what you think. Where would you put them? Would you rank them differently? What was your favorite SMP of mine? What was your least favorite SMP of mine? Let me know in the comment section down below. I have been Seapeekay. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching at this point, you are the best. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!